What did your parents teach you that you had to unlearn? Part 2. That loud noises and rough housing caused the cake to not rise when baking in the oven. Come to find out 20 years later, it was just a lie to get us to be quiet. Now that I think of it, they got quiet kids and cake. Scratch that. I'll remember this instead and use it in the future. It's not that it won't rise, but there is a fragile baking stage where the bubbles are there, but the batter is still very liquid, and if you bump the stove or stamp the floor, the cake can fall and have a sunken middle. Ruined, essentially. My mother is the anti-vaxxer, Coney 2012 chemtrails type person. I believed every lie she told me, and of course, I told everyone at school this stuff. It gained me reputation as the weird kid, and nobody believed me for a long time. LOL, my parents are the same exact way, but I was homeschooled until high school. I had to switch schools twice before I realized the problem was me and not everyone else is mean. The wrong rules to Monopoly? I feel like everyone has their own rules when it comes to Monopoly. That it's okay to want affection and that it's not normal to be surrounded by fighting all the time. I can relate. It's like Twilight Zone when I visit my parents now. I'll go for months without yelling at anybody, but as soon as I go home, it's like the only way we communicate. That because someone is family, you should automatically love them. My mom told me stories about how her father, my grandfather, and her cousins were all very physically and emotionally abusive. I don't see them often because I live in another town, but when they call or visit, I'm expected to be there to hug them and tell them I love them and miss them. I don't know these people by anything except for the horrible stories my mom tells, and she expects me to love them? I feel disdain towards my mother for a lot of reasons, a lot of which being bad habits she picked up from my grandfather, but every time I see her, she always asks me if I love her, and if I'm going to take care of her when she's older. She's terrified me and my sister won't be there. We probably won't be. That I'm not a special snowflake. Being smart and talented stopped mattering around age 17, and I felt like a fraudulent mess-up until I learned how to work and apply myself. There is a serious link between telling kids early on they're super smart and the constant self-loathing that comes later on. Seen it out of myself, everyone I know that got the same routine, and even in this thread. That all aspects of sexuality are disgusting and should make you feel guilty even thinking about it. I had a book given to me at about 12 with very modest illustrations. Covers on a couple, lady is now pregnant, etc. That was the extent of my sex ed. I knew nothing until my mid-20s. But yeah, I get it. Limited knowledge of sex and an implanted fear of it definitely made things weird as an adult. I still have to unlearn many abusive lessons they gave me, like their approach to modesty resulting in never celebrating any achievements. The world doesn't end if you aren't home at 2 a.m. Women don't have to marry or have children. It's normal to hug the people you care about. They acted like it was very inappropriate. The modesty thing? Yes. As children, I always did much better in school than my sister. She's very smart, she's just not good at school and tests. I absolutely love standardized tests. I am so good at them. But I was always reminded not to brag, and to not celebrate doing really well in school, since it would make my sister feel bad for not doing as well. I'm sure there are things she did better than me that she couldn't celebrate. My parents were very into fairness, which is a good lesson, I think. I certainly don't want to make anyone feel bad, but there must be a way to celebrate one kid's achievements without making the other feel bad, right? How to handle money. They never dealt with credit cards, student loans, etc. What they taught me was superficial, and some of their strategies put me deeper into debt. Took years, but dug out. My credit is great, and I'm actively saving every month. My mom was just going on about needing to file for bankruptcy because she has about $40,000 in medical bills. I told her to check her credit report first because many places don't add medical charges to credit reports. She didn't want to deal with it, knowing she needs a new car and bankruptcy will kill her chance at a decent loan. So I checked her report for her. She had $1,200 on her report that can easily be paid off in a few months. I swear, We didn't need her abusive boyfriend to get by. She just needed to take 8th grade finances class. Sorry for ranting. To always assume the worst might happen. My parents are conservative in every way, shape, and form. Like, no, Mom, just because I'm out having a good time with my friends and don't answer my phone doesn't mean that I'm dead. Now that 100% independent, I'm learning that sometimes risk equals reward, whereas my parents had taught my siblings and I that risk usually leads to demise. This is how my father's side of the family is. They once actually prevented me from taking a free trip to LA because it was dangerous and nothing but trouble. That men should be busy doing manly stuff, and that taking care of or entertaining the kids is woman's work. Forget that. I hang out and do stuff with my kids every chance I get. What's the point of having them if you don't want to spend time with them? To marry into other houses and create alliances. Duh. Wash isn't pronounced warsh. The capital of the United States isn't Washington, D.C. The school trip to D.C. was hard on me. My dad can't say Washington. He can only say Washington. And he's lived in Washington his whole life. That you can always do better. Not that that's intrinsically bad, but when you don't learn to stop and appreciate what you've accomplished, you'll never be satisfied. You have mostly A's, but one of your teachers said you're not living up to your potential, so you're not allowed to play video games until your grades are all up to an A. Eat badly. We never ate vegetables, always starches. So much processed garbage. I'm 28, and finally have managed to retrain my palate to eat vegetables regularly. I do my best to eat plenty of veggies every day of all different types, and I'm very concerned with my health and fitness. Passing this on to my son is super important to me. Are you me? LOL, seriously though. My mom has always eaten like a teenager whose parents are out of town. We lived off of, she still does, boxed meals, microwavable dinners, fast food, and pizza. Big surprise, I grew up obese. I'm 28 now. I have 2 daughters that I want to grow up knowing how to eat healthy, and I'm determined to set the right example. I made it a resolution on New Year's Day 2015 to get healthy, and I meant it. I've lost 77 pounds so far, just by eating right and watching my calorie intake. Also, only 40 pounds from my goal weight. My mom used to enjoy shopping in my kitchen. Now she opens my fridge and pretends to gag because there's no junk. Then she asks why I never buy chips or frozen pizza anymore. She'll never change, but I have, and my daughters will grow up so much healthier than I did for it. That mental health is for pussies. It's okay to feel negative emotions such as anger or sadness. I wish I could have found this out earlier. I grew up around a dad who was on antidepressants and stuff, and I was always taught that I wasn't allowed to show emotion because I was supposed to be a man. Now, I'm not saying I cry a lot, but it does feel good after so long of not having any emotions for fear of my parents' disapproval. That my opinions and desires are worthless. On the same line as having to learn that you can actually be proud of yourself for something you've done, and it doesn't make you big-headed or egotistical. All the times she'd call me spoiled when I cried because we were eating ramen every night and I had no clothes to wear to school, and problems with my lungs because the house we were in had black mold, but we could somehow magically afford $60 to $80 of liquor for her boyfriend every week. That's something I am still unlearning. I hate selfish parents. So, liquor is more important than food in your stomach and clothes and a medical bill? If they were that poor, I'm sure they could have gotten you free health insurance from the state, and also a proper house that isn't toxic. When someone annoys you, cut them out of your life. Permanently. Why not? I mean, if the annoying is persistent. There are literally billions of other people to spend your time with, and you only have so much time. Okay, when I was a toddler, my dad used to play this game with this rhyme where he'd recite 4-acre, and poked my forehead, eye blinker, the spot between my eyes, nose stopper, the tip of my nose, chin bopper, and then my chin. And then like a year or so later, my mom and I were in the car, and I said something like, "Mom, my 4-acre hurts." And she looked at me and was like, "Honey, that's your forehead." I looked back at her like she was insane and argued with her, "No, it's my foreacre." And she had to answer me back, "No, sweetie, it's your forehead, really." And I argued the point with her for half a minute before I realized that all this time, I had been convinced that my forehead was actually called my foreacre. I thought my mom made this little game up. Instead of bopping my chin, she would tickle under my jaw. To this day, she does it at family get-togethers to try to embarrass me. In good fun. I giggle every time. I'm 32. Self-hatred. My father was a terrible alcoholic and addict. I was told repeatedly I was a burden, a stone around his neck, that I was worthless and stupid. That stuff still haunts me. While he no longer says that, it's on constant repeat in my head. It's impossible to silence, and it's made my life suck. That I'm a bad person and a disappointment. That was mostly my father's doing. I know that feeling. After years of literally everyone around me giving me those signals, these days it's my own doing.